What do we think about the Chargers and Bengals? 0-2. The hype train has been on for Burrow and Herbert, and everyone's been knocking Allen. And Herbert is 0-2. Burrow is 0-2. Burrow is 0-2, and he's looked atrocious. You're not hearing a whole lot about that. Allen has one bad week, and the whole league is raining down hate on the guy. Burrow's been brutal for 2 weeks. Not hearing much. Well, what's that
Yeah.
about?
Yeah, that's a super frustrating thing for me. I've complained about this a lot. They they love to hate on Josh Allen. I don't know what it is. He's just as talented as Joe Burrow, arguably better. He's certainly better than Herbert. Those guys somehow, when they're not playing well, fly under the radar, and when they're playing really well, they get all the media attention. So it frustrates me because, yeah, Joe Burrow in particular has looked horrific. And you can give him whatever nonsense excuse, his calf, his this, he didn't play in the offseason, he had preseason injury. Those things are all true. But the fact of the matter is, he was, at up until about the last couple of hours, the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes did restructure his deal in the last hour, and he's now getting about 56 million this year. They didn't actually give him more money, but they restructured it so he gets a little more money over the next 4 years. So he is now the highest paid quarterback in the league, but still, Joe Burrow is one of the highest paid, significantly higher than Josh Allen, and he is not producing anywhere near the level that he should be. So to me, I would say both of those guys are in big trouble. One out of 23 teams that started 0-2 in the last decade have actually made the playoffs. I would say at this point,
It's the 2020
Cincy
format
is
of
the
7
team.
teams. Only
Yeah,
one of 23 teams. Yeah.
yeah. And I think it was Cincinnati last season.
It was
But
Cincinnati. Yeah.
but what we need to remember here is this is not the same Cincinnati as last year. As we know, every single year teams change. And although I say it's not important and it shouldn't be considered when we're talking about that he's not playing so well, that he's injured, it's not an excuse, but it's a reason to believe that there's a high percentage chance that the Cincinnati Bengals do not make the playoffs this year. There's a very high percentage chance. The Chargers, very similar story. I would say the biggest challenge Cincinnati is facing is they have lost 2 divisional games. And the 2 teams they lost to in Baltimore and Cleveland have looked pretty good. They both look like potential playoff teams. So if there's 3 playoff teams in that division, I just don't see that happening. I don't see 3 teams coming out of that division. And I would say right now it's a very large uphill battle for the Cincinnati Bengals. And on the Chargers side, I think there's a better shot for them to make the playoffs than Cincinnati, more so just because I don't think Herbert is the problem. It's really their defense. So,
And they
not to
have a
say that
lousy division outside of Kansas City.
that too, they're in a much easier division. So I think that their opportunities are much greater to make it. I think Cincinnati is really going to struggle to make up for those 2 losses in their division.
And
But
but as it
again,
relates to the Bills, I
this
like
is
our
a great
chances.
thing.
I think
This
this is
is a
great
great
for us.
thing.
Look, we
And
have
we
to deal with
know,
Miami.
well, that's the thing. We don't have this division anywhere near locked up. The Dolphins look good. And I mean, I think I would argue that last night told us a little bit about them. They're maybe not as good as we thought after week 1. And the Chargers defense is even worse than we anticipated. But they're still a legitimate contender for the AFC East. And knowing that Cincinnati may struggle really makes me feel a little better, in the sense that if somehow we don't win the division, there's a pretty good shot at a wild card.